One woman addressed me. Her son had a mental disease, and when he had an attack, he locked up inside the apartment, did not eat, and if someone tried to enter, he attempted suicide. The situation was very difficult. Tranquilizers should have been administered to end the attack. And the woman did not know what to do, how to get through to her son. She was scared to contact him because of his suicidal attempts. And she started to meditate on holiness and to wish happiness. She did that continuously. She entered this state, and gradually she felt first pain for her son, this problem, but then gradually she felt purity in relationships. It became easier. She felt there was something to do to change the situation. After some time, he called her himself and said he wanted to see her, although he was completely insane. And when she came, he opened the door himself but let no one else in. And she laced his food with tranquilizers and pills, and he came back to his senses. This proves that even if a person is deranged, there is connection in your heart, and you can even change your relationships with such person. I'm not speaking about normal relationships between people who think clearly. This method of improving relationships is studied very little, but this is ancient culture, the ancient way to resolve problems. Thus, there is a certain method that allows to change everything in your life, but you must work in this direction. Other methods do not work. You must understand one thing that is written in the ancient scriptures. We are connected, especially to our relatives, to people who are in our fate, who have great influence on us, who cause suffering in our heart. We are all connected in our hearts with these people, and our fate is implemented through that people. And to change our relationships, we need to remember a saintly person or some holy object and start to pray. You chant prayers or you wish everyone happiness, and as there is pain in our heart, and that is the amount of our work, that means you have a problem in that direction, and the memory directs you there. The person remembers holiness, he connects to the source of energy, love and purity, and starts his worshipping prayer. Gradually, memory of the problem becomes lighter. The person feels that he feels better, and at some moment, gradually, he knows that everything is not so bad, that he can overcome his problem. It is a real sensation in the heart, real feeling. First, he feels that he can make everything better. But little by little, the happiness from his heart flows into the heart of the person there is problem with. And when that heart is changed, the person feels that he is not so bad after all. He remembers good things, good events. There were some good memories. And when he sees that person, he can smile at him and he responds well to it. although in conversation karma can still prevail. One girl approached me and said, I have very bad relationships with my mother. I do everything as you say, but when I talk to her personally, first, as I pray, I have a good feeling, and she also does, but when we talk, after some time, we are cross again, we are offended, and we ruin everything we had in our hearts. What does it mean? That means that karma, or the force that acts in our hearts, is so heavy that with this relative we should not establish close relationships and try to agree on something. You should just give presents to that person, you should wish him happiness and agree with everything he says, but do whatever you can in your life. But you should not sort things out. Often people have different energy, different view of things, and it hurts them to agree on something. It causes much pain. So you establish relationships in your heart, but you keep distance. You do not go deep into relationships. The problem is that we try to sort things out with everyone quite deeply. That means that we underestimate the situation. You must understand in this regard that in most cases this underestimation causes absence of faith that you can change anything at all. But you can change your relationships with anyone. The day before yesterday I talked to a woman who lived with her husband in one house but with a fence, and she felt very badly about him. But in 2 months of this method, you can clear it all out. But it does not mean that you should have close relationships with him after all. But there will be no bad feeling, and the relationships will be fine. The heart will be light, no pain, no anger, and whether you can live together is for the fate to decide. But when people dislike each other, there is nothing for the fate to decide. People often cannot resolve their problems because they do not understand that to do that, firstly, you need to lose influence of the forces that do not allow you to resolve anything. Remember, we discussed there was life in ignorance, passion, and ignorance. Before the person is in the mode of ignorance, he cannot resolve his problems. When the mind wants to have his way very strongly, nothing can be resolved. People in the mode of goodness tend to yield and to let the other person have his way. They accept another person's opinion and accept it even though it feels wrong at first, and actually is. But just this desire to understand another person is very noble, and God in the heart likes it. He likes when we try to accept people with their flaws. It is very sensible and noble, even though it is strange at first. But only the goodness person is capable of it. In ignorance, people accept no one and never change their opinion. Passionate people just play. They smile to each other and agree, but they do not have it in their hearts. Goodness people can accept and forgive in time. It is impossible at once because pain in relationships is unsurmountable at first. Spiritual life is required. There are rules that are hard to understand. I'm going to repeat it. The first rule: you should not try to have close relationships if you did not raise above ignorance and passion, because perception of your close person is very painful. Let us see that in practice. Raise your hands who want to speak about it with me, who has very difficult relationships. Please pass the microphone. Here is my question. What is your name? Sergey. I have difficult relationships with my neighbors. They are in the mode of ignorance. When I start to talk to them, they know that I am weird. You do spiritual practice. And to them, I am a crazy person. But you are a normal person. Well, I spent a year in the mental institution. I see now. So if something is wrong with me, they can send me back there. What can I do? How can I have normal relationships with my neighbors? I will give you a few examples of how my family establishes relationships. We rent a house at the moment in a village near Krasnodar, and there are neighbors on both sides. One neighbor is a former military man, and he is used to giving orders. He is about 15 years older than me, and once he called me to the fence and said, "Do you need potatoes?" I said, "Well, yes." "How much?" 3 kgs. And he named the price. And I agreed to it. He brought me a bucket, I took potatoes, and then he said, "Do your friends need potatoes?" I said I did not know. And he said, "You must ask them. It's good potatoes." "Do you need onions?" I said I did not eat onions. "What do you mean?" "I do not eat onion. I think it's bad." "How can you? Onion is the best. How much onion do you take?" "But I don't eat it." And so we talked on for about 30 minutes. I told him I did not eat onions, and he tried to talk me into taking 5 kgs of it. Then my wife cooked the way she normally does with prayer, and she called on their door. His wife came out, and my wife gave her something tasty. They ate it, and that military man came out very satisfied. He apologized for being so insistent, and I was not cruel. I just agreed to everything. He thought that he was about to talk me into it. In the end, we agreed that I would consider it and then give the final answer. And similarly, it was with the strawberries. I took some strawberries. He tried to make all my friends have his strawberries. And in the end, he started to smile at me because I'm always favorable to him, and I accepted him and his character. Then his wife found out that I was a doctor, I treated her, and so on. The point is that when they had pumpkins, he demanded me to take his pumpkins for free. We tried to pay for that, and there was another argument. The point is that you must serve your neighbors. First, you wish them happiness. You told me about your problem, and that is the result of your inner feeling. Now I feel that there is a man and a woman, and mostly you have the problem with the wife. This is what I see. And also there is karma between you, and the thread that connects your hearts, it is just tension. Try to wish her happiness. Do you? What do you feel? What do I feel? Yes, you wish her happiness. What do you feel? I have tears. You feel tension. It is heavy. Your heart is heavy. That is victory over your fate. You must endeavor. You must use your inner strength. Usually we obey to the feeling that we have in our heart. And in this case, you must wish your neighbor happiness and believe that you will feel differently about her. You must wish happiness. Do not talk to them, and do it for a month. Just by thinking kindly about your neighbor, I know the reason she thinks so badly about you. Would you like to know the reason? It is very simple. It is fear. She is scared of you. It's right. Of course it's right, because I feel her heart. I confirm it to everyone here. But the fear will pass when you fill her heart with happiness, with your wishing. And do you have a wife? We're talking about my wife. What do you mean? That woman is my wife. You are neighbors? We live next door. I thought it was your neighbor. You said that. Maybe I misunderstood. Well, okay. It is very easy. If that is your wife, it is even easier. She is scared of your illness. Yes. You must do Hatha Yoga. You must do static poses for a long time. Your mind is very tense. Then you will get relaxed with yoga. For example, you lie on the back and bend your legs to your torso. Once you get relaxed, you bend forward more. And do it for 20 or 30 minutes, bending forward and backward with no violence, little by little. First, it makes you feel hot and tense, but gradually you will relax and it will heal you. Thus you can overcome your disease. You see, I do not think that I am sick, others do. I also think that you are sick. Okay. And you must accept authority of your senior, because when a person is sick, he does not always know it. Your illness is that your mind is extremely tense, and sometimes it alters your perception of the world. In order to avoid it, I suggest you do yoga. You relax your body, or you can get seated and you bend forward. It requires much willpower. At the same time, you can chant, "I wish everyone happiness," or think of holiness. Thus you will be relaxed. And when you do, your wife will also. She responds to tension in your mind, not your illness, not to you as a person. You must know that when a husband has a mental disorder, a wife also does, but she has it differently. She is extremely sensitive and she is afraid of many things in life. You must defeat it together. You wish her happiness, you think about holiness and wish happiness to your wife. After 3 or 4 months, you will see great changes in your life. But before that, do not try to have close relationships. Illness is ignorance. It moves up to passion. That means that you can talk a little. Most people live like that. They just associate, but they do not go deep into relationships. And the reason for that is absence of inner life. Relationships are built through forgiveness, wishing happiness. Many people do not even understand what I'm talking about. If you close your eyes and remember your close person, there are 3 options. First, you remember nothing. Second, you remember something bad. And third is a bright memory. Bright memory means there is a bridge between hearts and relationships are clean. Just like we brush our teeth so that it did not smell, we can have a pure connection in our hearts. Even if a person left his body, you should still establish pure connection with prayer and wishing happiness. When the person leaves this life, there are 3 sensations in the heart. First, there is a heavy stone in the heart. People get depressed and ill and sometimes even die fast. It's a powerful force that destroys life. That is the amount of work, the stone in your heart. That means you thought badly about each other, and these bad relationships created a big problem in the fate. Raise your hands, those who have it, for some deceased relative. You must do it. Have you already started to wish happiness and pray? When did you? You must start doing it. It requires about 4 months to lose this stone in your heart. The second feeling you may have is separation or sadness. That means the mode of passion. The stone is ignorance, and separation means there is connection, but it is impure. The stone means relationships are blocked. There should be relationships, but there is just dirt. Energy is accumulated and it is impossible to unclog it. The pipe, the connection is clogged. It happens in time. Which ones of you have purified relationships with this method? Please pass the microphone there. She has been listening to my lectures for quite a while, and she used this method. Hello, I am Yelena. The day before yesterday, I went to the church and I prayed for my father's soul. Please speak up. I prayed for my father for about a year, practically daily. I did spiritual practice. I addressed God for Him to give me strength to forgive. Please tell how your feelings changed gradually to your father. I see the result. It was very hard at first. When I listened to the lectures about death and leaving the body, I understood how it works, how I could purify relationships, and I started it. A long time ago, many years ago, my father came to me in my sleep in a very bad condition, exhausted, dirty. He left his body in 2002, and he asked me for help. But back then I knew nothing. I have been listening for your lectures a little over a year, And I was extremely far from these things. I did not know what my father wanted, I only got scared. But when I found out how it worked, I remembered my father in my dreams, and I tried to focus all my thoughts and senses on helping him, praying God to help him and to go to higher planets. When I prayed for him, I always saw him in a certain place. When I saw him last before he died, and in that place, at one certain point, I saw his soul, and I saw changes as I prayed. I saw him purified. What did you feel? Some purity, light, bright image. First, when he came, he was deep green. And what did you feel in your heart? Image is not important. Not everyone sees images. First, your heart was very heavy. You felt you could change nothing. Then you prayed, and there was the feeling you could do something. You had hope. Then there was the feeling of relief. And how relieved are you now? Do you feel like praying still? I guess not. Is your heart light? I feel some victory. That is great. That is a true miracle. I'm very grateful to you, because the day before yesterday in the church, I went to the church where my father used to pray, and I felt him so strongly. He was next to me, and holy people gave me this opportunity to be next to my father, to feel him, his hand, his light, and truly the feeling was so bright and light, like in my childhood. I have not experienced it in a long time. I prayed on, and I felt that was it. He blessed me. My father blessed me. That's a fact. He thanked me. I asked for forgiveness for everything that was my resentment. Thank you very much. There is something I would like to say about your revelations. Always when a person has done this work, what happened in this case? This woman's father, despite his religiousness, could not enter higher spheres for the next life. There are higher spheres where people are happy, there are earthly spheres where we pass exams, and there are lower spheres where people suffer. And the father did not go down, and neither could he get born in the earthly spheres. He needed help, but now he went up, and he is a guardian angel of his daughter. When someone leaves his body, you can purify his whole existence by your prayer. You can defeat his fate. In Sanskrit, son is a putra. Putra means the one who liberates from hell. In ancient culture, the sons prayed for their fathers who lived wrongly and went down. And with prayer, the sons liberated their fathers. Through relationships, the energy of love defeats fate. And this is what we live for. We must give this energy to our relatives during prayer. But we do not want to do it. We just want to enjoy. And when our relatives give us no enjoyment, we argue. But This young woman, God blessed, she made a great job and she can always repeat it in relationships with any person and the result will be the same. The result is light heart, freedom, and a feeling of victory. It is always the same. I have employees and their mother left her body. She had a heart attack. She suddenly left her body. She did not have time to purify her existence with spiritual life. She only did it for some time. And her daughter saw in a dream that the mother suffered, and her husband and she started to pray, and they constantly asked me about the mother, but there was no necessity. It is easy to feel it in your heart. First, they felt heavy and prayed every day for 2 hours. They thought about their mother, but it is useless to pray on your own. In order to help the mother, you need the source of energy, and all the scriptures give the method of relationships with the saints. If a person thinks about an icon, a holy place, some scripture, and he remembers pain, at the same time, it is impossible not to think about your pain. It is right there in your heart. You should not think about your parents, about pain, although it comes up. You must think about holiness. That is very important. You must remember a holy person. Other thoughts come on your own, because all this energy goes to them, to your parents, for example. It takes long. Each day it feels like nothing changes, but in 4 months the following thing happened. This daughter came up to me and said that she felt relief, like her mother was better. I confirmed it. And then I came up to her and said that your mother is completely purified and she goes up. And the daughter answered with a smile on her face that the day before that she had seen the mother in her dream, all shining, and she said, "My dear daughter, I am endlessly grateful to you for everything and I will always help you." And she went up. You always see it as a miracle, even if it happens to us. I had several miracles like that in my life, and I can relate it to you. I will not go into deep things about my fate, but I can tell you what you should know. I have a relative with a mental disorder, and she had an attack one day, psychosis. And I prayed early in the morning and I suddenly decided to call her. She did not answer her phone. I called her daughter. She answered and I asked her what happened to the mother. And she said it was too early and that she was asleep. And I asked her to go to the mother's room to make sure everything was fine. My heart was uneasy. And then the daughter said that she could not open the door. But there were no locks on the door. She started to push the door and found out that the door was blocked by a chair. Finally, she entered the room and saw her mother on the ledge outside the window, absolutely unthinking, in a trance, in a deranged condition. And the daughter started to cry badly. All this time she was on the phone. She did not know what to do. Just imagine it. This ledge, it is just this tiny metal thing outside the window. It is impossible to stand there, and it was the 6th floor. And I told her, hang up the phone and wait. Do not move, do nothing, because you can destroy the life. Just wait. And I started to pray. I remembered a saint. I worship my spiritual master. I prayed, and the first thing I saw a spirit pulling the mother by her hair down. And I begged Holiness to enter her arms and hold her tight, and also legs, so that she stood firmly. In 10 minutes I achieved it. I saw that she was firm in her place. Then gradually I started to release her head from the spirit. It took another 10 minutes. And then suddenly I felt victory. I knew the spirit was still left a bit, but the danger was gone, and I felt the urge to call. This urge was very real. I picked up the phone, and when I did, the answer was that right in that moment, suddenly the mother was grabbed by her hands from behind. Rescuers came. They put a ladder, and a rescuer came and grabbed her and took her down safely. Then she was given drugs to get her back to the right mind. But the fact stays the same. If it hasn't been for the prayer, this woman would have been dead. And there was a recent case 2 weeks ago. I flew to Volgograd for a lecture. That was a minor case. There are many like that. I was on a flight to Volgograd. I prayed and I bowed down in my mind, and suddenly I felt that I could die on that plane. I have certain tests to know if it is true. So if the mind is calm and the person is inspired by prayer, he starts to think about either right or left hand, about its condition. If a man's left hand starts to hurt, there is heaviness, but you must be calm. If you are anxious, it happens spontaneously and it may be false. If you are calm on the outside and you are brave and inspired by prayer, if your left arm starts to hurt when you think about your problem, and I thought about praying and my left arm became very painful, I knew there was danger. For women, it is the right arm, also danger. The right side of the face can go numb, or there may be a twitching eye. But if I tell this, many women will start to think about something and it all will twitch and numb, and that is simple hypochondria. You can only trust these symptoms if you are calm and fearless. Just something happens to your arms or eyes on its own. I understand how it works very clearly. I became certain that the plane was in danger. some dangerous force was there, and I started to pray. It did not take long, just 15 or 20 minutes. I felt relief in my heart, and my left arm went warm. Then I went back to my business. I forgot about it all a little, and I even thought that I imagined it. But when the plane started to descend, very suddenly in the clear sky there was a very strong wind, and the plane started to shake. All the flight attendants smiled but were extremely pale, and that means they were really scared. You can tell by the flight attendants the condition of the plane, because they know best what goes on. They were shocked. It was sudden. There was a strong wind. No one expected it. And that was no situation for landing. But apparently it was too late, and the plane was landing still. When we touched the ground, the plane jumped about thrice from one wheel to another. If it went to the side a bit more, everyone would have died, because when the wing touches the ground, it is goodbye. But I was calm in my heart. I had no panic. I knew exactly it was going to be fine. Another case happened in India. I was in a car at night. I prayed also in a holy place. I was in a car, and in 1 second I realized that something bad was going to happen. I started to think about holiness, and I did not break my train of thought when the driver brushed very badly against a curb on full speed. He drove and he did not see it in the dark. He hit the curb. The road went narrow. It happens in India. That was not a main road, just some countryside road. And the car was thrown to the side badly, but the driver kept the control. I also felt everything was going to be fine, because I was concentrated on holiness. Shall I tell more? Is it interesting? The next case happened to my parents. I've already told it many times. They went from Taliasi to Ural. I've only started my spiritual practice back then. I was about 22. They were driving their car, and at some point I realized that they were going to die. I felt it in my heart. I started to pray. At that moment I was walking. It was just that moment. I stopped and started to pray for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then I felt a relief and I went on. When they came back, they told, and it happened in one time. They were driving at full speed on a highway, and there was a big truck coming at them, and the truck's driver fell asleep. They had to turn to the roadside, and he did also. The truck went, and they missed each other just by millimeters. The car fell into a ravine and landed on its wheels, and they drove out of there, and no scratches, no nothing. There were no problems. The car just jumped on its wheels and then it drove on. No problems, but a fright. And what about the truck? I do not know. My relatives were in shock. They did not think about the truck. They told me nothing about it. I can tell you an opposite story. It happened to one of the heads of departments in my medical university. Even back then, I was interested in all these things, and she told me with tears in her eyes that she dreamt her mother, who slept in the next room, and said, "My daughter, help me, I am dying." The daughter rolled to the other side. She thought that was a dream, and when she woke up and went to her mother's room, she had already left her body, and she could not forgive herself that she did not wake up and go for help. I tell you this not for you to become fanatic and to become a little crazy. I just want to give you a very practical method to resolve your problems. It has already worked for thousands of people. I know many cases when, like with this young woman, it helped. This is not my method. It has always been and always will, because there are relationships between our hearts that we have forgotten about. We watch TV instead of having inner life. Before, people prayed when eating, when going to sleep, and when waking up. They forgave in their heart. They have inner life. And now it is replaced with internet and TV. We live externally. We watch some picture, then another, then we go to bed, and we do not want to know what happens in our hearts. The problem is that we often do not understand people next to us, what happens in his life. Here is an example. Parents addressed me. They had a daughter who stopped studying. She used to study very well before, and then she stopped. The teacher said that she had bad company and suggested some measures. The parents addressed me for help because they had doubts. They had already forced their daughter to study more, and they pressed her. When I looked at the situation, I saw that the daughter had a bad astrological period, and she was very weak mentally. She felt really bad, and that if she went on like that studying, she would go crazy. There are illnesses of intelligence. Losing your intelligence means you become a drunk, for example. You start to smoke. You lose your willpower. You cannot give up bad habits. Intelligence is like a mental superstructure. It gives you a path in life, but even if it doesn't, the mind that is responsible for your normality continues to function. And when you lose your mind, the mind is distracted, and it is the system that gives us correct perception of this world. And if the person loses his mind, it is very difficult to restore it. It requires much time and effort so that the person did not go back into his crazy state. And that girl could really go crazy. Her system could have been distracted. That allows to control the body, and it is also about education, ability to memorize. It is called the subtle body of mind. And that girl was extremely tense. The mother, in order to make sure my words were right, took her to a psychiatrist, and he said that with such load, she won't last more than a month. There were no doubts. But the hardest part was to convince the teachers. They did not believe until they received a note from a psychiatrist. After that, the girl was free from studying, and she continued it in 6 months. After that period was over, she caught up with her peers. And I have a question for you. Do you have to go to a psychiatrist every time? What did parents lack in this case? Attention, prayer, love. Attention does not always help. We see our child the way we want to. For example, a person came up to me and he wanted to have a diet. He asked me to select a diet for him. When I did, he exclaimed happily, "I thought so. All these products, you say, I really like them. Now I know how to feed my son." And I asked why he did. And he said, "Because he's just like me. The son is just like the father." And I offered to select a diet for free for his son, to be certain. And when I did, it appeared that the son needed absolutely different food products. And then his father realized why his son was so sick, because he gave him wrong food. So, lack of attention is not so correct. It is not about attention. There is external seeing of the child based on my desires. I want him to be a manager. I want him to be like this and that. But the child's psyche is absolutely different, and in order to understand it, you need inner life. You should pray and establish relationships in your heart. Once there are, then you understand your child from inside. You know what kind of person he is, what desires and interests he has. It will be obvious. But while the parent has his illusions, he will never understand his child. And similarly, we do not understand our relatives because we have some desire to each relative, and it blocks our view of that person. This problem is in each person and also me. If I don't have inner life, I won't understand my wife. That is the way fate acts. Why do people suffer? We have no inner life and we do not understand each other's needs. How do you know if you understand your close person? It's easy. If you argue, you don't. If you get offended, you don't. And if he gets resentful of me, then also you don't understand him. We often blame others. There are 3 ways to have relationships. Only one gives victory. I've already told about it, but I remind. The first way is he is guilty. You can never change relationships like that. The second way is we must solve our problems together. It will be easier, but you will never really change anything. The third way is I am guilty of all, and his blame is his life. My problem is my guilt. I will change everything. It is painful to think like that. For that you need pray much, you must have a lot of inner strength. But if a person thinks that he can resolve the problem, undoubtedly, no matter how bad it is. There are 3 ways to resolve. We have a bright feeling for each other, or at least I have it for him and we live together. The second is I have a bright feeling, but we must keep distance because we cannot live together. And the third way, I have a bright feeling, but we should really live separately. But breaking up is not a solution. That means the stench is very bad, you got stomatitis and you have to pull half your teeth out. Is that clear? When 2 people break apart, that means they pooed badly. They did not treat their relationships for years. They became stinky and it went unbearable. And it feels like it is impossible to change relationships at all. But that is ignorance, because you can change any relationships with any person with your inner life. And now, here is a rule that each person must follow in his rule if he wants to be successful. The rule is that we all live according to one program. Its name is very funny. I'm going to explain it to you with an anecdote. Each person considers himself a big boss of his life. This is the name. We all know everything, everything is so cool. And this program is called pride. The feeling that the person cannot diagnose in himself, but it is there in each person. You can see it in others, but not in yourself. Here is an example. I went to India to my spiritual master. I came to him for association, to receive instructions, and he asked me how my service was going, my lectures. I said that everything was fine, that many people attended my lectures and their lives changed. I said these words that everything was so great, and he suddenly stopped noticing me. He turned to another disciple and started talking to him, even though he was younger than me. I received a spiritual initiation over 15 years ago, and that is a big term. And my spiritual master started to talk to a younger disciple than with another, and he paid no more attention to me at all. I understood something was wrong, but I did not know what exactly. I stepped out of his room. He is a monk, a renounced person. And I went to pray. I felt very bad inside. The feeling was so unpleasant, and in prayer I understood that I was proud, that I was in complete ignorance. After that, I came back to my spiritual master. I bowed down to him and expressed this feeling I understood inside me during prayer. Then he asked me to sit closer to him. He smiled at me and said that that was each person's problem and that there was no need to worry. He said, "Pride is in every person. Try to overcome it with prayer. Surely you are proud, but you can defeat it with prayer to the seniors and prayer." And when he told me that, my heart became light and I received new knowledge of life. And I am speaking very sincerely now. I knew that actually, for me, it was not so important how many people came to my lectures and how it helped them, but how these people helped me, how much happiness they gave me, and knowledge and enlightenment. Their blessings allow me to develop. That was my realization after speaking to my spiritual master. And it gives me protection from pride, despite the fact that I sit on a high stage. You cannot defeat your fate without a senior. Pride destroys your life. Here in the city, I had a very weird association. I came to one scientist who had a lot of achievements, and he was the head of many other scientists, very renowned. I got down to talk to him. We only had 15 minutes, and all this time he told me about his achievements. I nodded, I worked on my humbleness, but I felt that he shouldn't have behaved like that. I was sorry for him because really he was a great man, but all this time he just boasted. I nodded. I try to accept that problem in his heart, and in the end he said, "I like the way you behave. Let's cooperate." Of course, I had no desire to cooperate with him, but I made a conclusion for myself that no matter how intelligent a person is, if he has no senior, he is doomed to lose. Naturally, that person is 1,000 times more intelligent than me. He has many achievements. I was shocked by what I saw. But when my spiritual master gave me initiation, after that I became his disciple, and that means relationships in which you completely surrender unto person. You take him as your senior, and you cannot argue about his decisions on your account. That is a very serious step. Many people are scared. These relationships are formed for years. Initiation is given after years of association. And after he had initiated me, he came up to me, sat down, folded his hands like this and said, "How can I serve you?" A senior is the one who always is a servant. It is not the one who commands and behaves like he is smart and cool. The senior is more humble, not proud or intelligent. We are talking about spiritual superiority. My spiritual master has never raised his voice to me in 15 years. I never saw any pride in him. Once I served him personally, and he was very tired. He had a very long flight. He has disciples all over the world. He flies from one part of the world to another. His whole life is traveling and austerities, although he is over 60. And I served him personally. In the room where he stayed, there was an armchair bed. It was quite complicated. I was explained how to fold it out, and I went to heat some water. He is from India, it's cold in Russia, we needed hot water, and there was no in that room. So I stepped out to heat some water, I came back and saw. He was supposed to have rest, and I forgot to fold out the armchair. And he was lying just like that, his feet and head hanging from the sides of the armchair. He was having rest like that, and I was shocked to see it. He did not know how to fold the armchair out. I came up to him, and when he opened his eyes, I saw a kind, calm smile. Actually, he was supposed to scold me, but he just smiled. This signifies a very advanced consciousness. I am telling you that each person must have a mentor in his life. If the person has no mentor, no senior, then his life cannot be successful because there is no strength, no leverage to defeat your fate. You have no source of energy that you can pass on to help your relatives. If there is heaviness in your relationships, you are disgusted with your close person, you feel you can do nothing about it, or he is sick and you cannot help, you feel like fate breaks you apart, he cheats on you, he is leaving you. You feel that some force breaks you apart. No, there is only one thing you do not have. You do not have the energy of happiness that used to be there between you. The fate does so that in some moment your hearts are connected and there is happiness naturally. but sometimes it's broken. Which ones of you feel coldness to your spouse after many years? You just had this period in life. It started about 3.5 years ago. How long have you been together? 2 years. Well, your bad period had started even earlier than you met your husband. I've known him since childhood. He is my first love. Well, one way or another, the coldness is at its highest now, and it will go on for 2 or 3 months, and then it will go warmer. Do you feel like you're going to be together? You do. That means your hearts are connected, because often when people feel this coolness, they think they are not compatible, they search for astrologers to confirm incompatibility. They try to do something to break up. That is wrong. If God has connected people, then coolness and incompatibility feeling is temporary. But these things can be defeated with prayer. If you think about a saint and you pray to him, and you think about your husband, it will get warmer. It does not happen at once, it takes time, you should endeavor, but always when it's heavy, there is coldness or separation, that is just your amount of work. And not knowing it, people try to do something externally. For example, your husband leaves you for another woman. What is there to do? By externally, I mean what you should do or say for him to stay with you. She should say, I love you. I do not leave you. And he will respond, and I do. And I wait for you. Well, do. Okay. I should wish him happiness. We are not speaking about wishing happiness. We are discussing external actions. She should ask him to stay. If she does, you know what happens? It will be the opposite. You are undeserving of me, and so you humiliate yourself before me. And you will feel like he will be very cool, very full of himself. Well, you wait, men like me are rare. Other options? Let him go. You let him go and he will be relieved. That means you lose. You ask for forgiveness. And so what? You ask, find another one. If you find someone else, he will be glad. Well, thank you. You solved my problem. That was a problem. I wanted to live with another woman. And now it is destined, and so if you have an abscess on your foot, and I tell you, you know, I guess you're destined to have no leg, and even better, just lie down on the ground, get used to it. This is treatment with earth. My dear ones, this was a trick question. There is no answer to it. Because when two hearts are apart, there is no way to stop your husband. He is connected to that other woman. A person always reaches out for happiness, just like a plant always reaches to sunlight. He feels there is love and here is no, he is drawn there. And there is only one option. You should leave him alone and start thinking about holiness. You pray, you bow down, and you think about your spouse. You try to remember the pure, bright feeling when you met. When two people met, as a reward, God first gives them all the best. And you try to bring out the best impression in relationships with that person. And remember all that you had between you. This impression is the remedy that saves your fate. In prayer, you must remember the first look, this first love that you had, because at that moment you saw the soul in your spouse, and God showed it to you. You could not see it on your own. God showed it to you, and you had this pure impression. My first mundane love, the morning to my eyes. I do not know you at all yet. I see you for the first time. This is the feeling. It is very light and pure. You must have it in your heart in prayer. You feel pain in your heart, you have dislike, you want to revenge, to punish, you want to find someone else. You have this animal feeling in your heart. You were beaten and you want to bite back. This animal feeling does not allow you to win. First, you must overcome pain in prayer. Your heart must be peaceful. That means victory is close. Then you think about a saint and again you forgive and ask for forgiveness. But you may ask, but what if he does not deserve me at all? That is none of your business. Your business is to pray and to restore relationships, no matter if he is deserving. You did not meet. God joined you. Can you join any hearts? Can you connect your heart to someone else's? Raise your hands, those who can. No one can. God connects hearts. The person wants to leave and he can't, but then time comes and he can leave. It is your challenge, your test for both of you. Who should try to get him back? For example, you have a problem. Separation comes between you. Who should get the person back, him or you? I ask you. I should. Yes, the one who goes to the lectures. The one given knowledge by God. You should not think if he's going to leave or not, if he's deserving or not. That is none of our business. We should establish pure relationships, and then God decides if you should live together or not. And my job is done. If this one leaves, God will give someone else. The person is not left alone if he resolved all his problems. And if God gives no one, that means the person has not passed his exams. God is not greedy. If you want to know about your case, I can tell you now. But I know that you are not ready to hear this. Don't be upset. I do it for you to self-improve. You are very sensible, I am sure. You can understand everything. You can even help others. You have enough intelligence. You must leave your pride. You must get rid of your pride. It does not help resolve problems in life. And you and I are not captains on the ship we're on. The captain is God. But a proud person thinks that he is the captain and he can never be happy. Not to be the captain, you must have a senior who can tell you the truth. you should humbly accept the situation you are in. You must think about holiness, about the scriptures. If there is no mentor, you should think of a holy place or an icon. Think about something saintly. Pray, bow down to it. Ask for pure, bright life, pure relationships, and gradually, it is called service. I want to serve you. I want to follow your instructions to live right. Please instruct me how to be on the right path. You can address the scriptures like that, but ultimately you always address God. We always only establish relationships with one personality, but there are mediators. It is hard to do it directly. You need mediators, those who have relationships with God, like the scriptures, holy places, or saints. When we do it, we enter relationships with God. Little by little, your hearts will become peaceful, even though your spouse has not returned yet, but your heart is at peace. There is understanding of that person and forgiveness. Not that you approve of what happened, but you can take this test of your fate. Next, you should establish relationships with your spouse. You should have contact. But don't sort things out. Don't ask, why did you leave me? She is bad, I am good, we had love. You should not say these things. You should talk about weather. If you have a child, talk about him. Speak about good things. Or if you can't, you can make a present or write a text. It's a sunny day today. I remembered the day we met and sent this text. Come back on a cold morning. Come back. It's so hard for me. Come back and stay. Come back, I am tired of being without you. You should be calm. You need a bright feeling. It will open your spouse's heart and his conscience will be awakened. He will be in duality. There is one person on one side, and on the other side there is the wife and the child. He will feel this duality. You must go on praying. You bow down to a saint. You think about your close person, and there will be warmness in your heart. But your spouse will still stay with another woman. And then knowledge will come. And the knowledge is, he will come back. Or the second option, he will not. And both are good. You did your job, your heart is warm. Your heart will be at ease. That means you did your job, and knowledge will come to your heart of what will happen. One young man in Moscow approached me and asked me to help him. He had good relationships with his wife, but at some point she told him, "We have nothing between us. I do not feel happiness with you, and I like someone else. I am still considering it, but most likely I will leave you for him." She was a good woman, very honest. She did not cheat, she just said that there was nothing between them. She believed in enjoyment. She thought that family happiness is enjoying, not care and service, and 90% of people think the same. She said that they had nothing and she had found the one she looked for the whole life, although she felt the same about him just a few years ago, and they had a child. This young man came to me and said he wanted to save his family. And I told him how to pray, how to meditate. He started to do it. I asked what he felt in his heart, and he told me. He came to me. I felt this in my heart, now I feel like this. Can I speak to her? No, not yet. Go on. Then he said, I feel in my heart that I understand her, I understand why she left, I feel her, I feel good about her. And I told him to speak to her about the child. Hello, thank you for everything, I want us to be friends and things like that. But no talking about separation. Only if she asks, he should express his desire to come back together, but no demands. The struggle went on for 4 months. Each day was a victory day. Each day he got closer and closer. First, externally, there was no result. It looked the same. But then there was a moment when her mind was changed. She was drawn both sides, and then she was drawn to her husband more. And simply without even noticing it, first she started to come home to cook, and at some point she stayed. And he did not force her. And you know what happened next? They came to me together to thank me for saving their family. They came together. But that happened much later, after 6 months. It does not always happen like this, but there is always victory in your heart, and that means that you either have another person or this one. One who does good is never overcome by evil. It is from the scripture. If the person acts right, he never loses in his life. The only thing that happens is studying. If the person won't study and he does not want to do right, he will always lose. And it can last your whole life. You can be lonely and miserable your whole life. If you do not want to change anything and you do not search yourself for a senior. And this is how you search your senior. Stage 1. It is very hard to approach holiness. Most people think that there is nothing holy now. They open the internet, they read some gossips. If you go to the internet, there are whole websites that criticize my every word and step. It is all distorted. They post my pictures, they paint my hair blue and they color my lips. It's normal. It's okay. But you should not read it if you want to listen to my lectures. If you read that, you will be unable to listen to me. Once I treated a woman who knew my spiritual master. In fact, we have one spiritual master. She took treatment in my health center, and suddenly she looked at me and said, I want to tell you something about your spiritual master. And she started to tell gossips, although she did not know that event in details. Once she opened her mouth, I did what scriptures recommend. I stopped the treatment and asked her to leave. And I went to take shower, to wash off this emotion. I was not really harmed, but I had another case. When I was in a holy place, I attended singing, chanting of one very exalted person. He has already left his body, and he did it in a bow in front of his altar. That was a very exalted personality. He slept only a few hours a day. He ate late at night after he had finished all his business. He was very unusual. And one lady who also lived in that holy place, but after that she lived there no longer. She started to speak badly about him, and although I did not believe her, the feeling of happiness I had when listening to his singing vanished. I was shocked. It took me a few months of real repentance to get this feeling back. Although I disagreed with that woman, but just this contact contamination from a senior destroyed my faith completely. So there is a certain etiquette of relationships with what gives us spiritual force. The etiquette is like this. You must cultivate a pure, bright feeling. You must stay away from gossips. When we speak about seniors, about things that allow us to feel holiness, most people do not believe in holiness at all. In order to do it, you must force yourself to listen to the spiritual music. You must move in that direction. And when you have faith, you believe there are holy things connected to God. The next stage is this. Most people can only worship things that are really holy. For example, in Christianity, they worship the icon of Sergei Radonежский or Seraphim Sarovsky. They are surely saintly. We are not speaking about a mentor yet, about someone close to you. But it is about seeing holiness in something really holy. And this is what you start with. You bow down to this holy object like an icon, the picture of a saint. You ask for service. Please allow me to serve you. I want to love you, to follow your instructions. And you pray at the same time, or you wish everyone happiness. It also works. And gradually, you will feel this personality. You will feel Sergei Radonежский, his purity and force. You will feel his protection. And the next stage is you also feel like you can follow instructions of a person who is not so holy as Sergei Radonежский. But he lives on this earth and he strives for God. And you do not look at his mistakes or some things that may discredit him. You look at his desire to go to God. And you think about him as the person who has this desire, as your mentor. Do you understand me? Each person has purity in his heart. Even a dog has the soul. Soul means purity or holiness, but only an elevated saint can see the soul in the dog. But the person who walks on the path of this pure perception of this world can first see the soul in an icon of Jesus Christ. He can see purity in Sergei Radonежский, in something very elevated. But gradually, his ability to see purity approaches to the level of a mentor who lives in this world. And you find yourself a mentor, a priest in your tradition, and you serve him in your heart. But if you are really spiritually developed, you will be able to see this purity in your peers. And you'll be able to take advices from your peers in spiritual matters. But when you are even more developed, you will see purity of the minors, and then you can be a spiritual master, a mentor. It is possible if you see purity in minors. So this path takes the person to ability to see divinity and purity in everything surrounding him. And this is the way the saints see. And now I would like to tell you an allegory. It teaches you to live. There are two types of people. It is written in the Vedas. One type of people have a mindset of a bee, and the other of a fly. Both a bee and fly like sweets, and they fly to it. But their behavior is different. When the bee flies to sweets, she notices nothing else. It takes sweetness, pollen of a flower, then it flies back to its hive, gives it all away and flies back. And it flies back and forth for as long as it has strength. Then it stays in the hive, enjoys sweetness, eats, and it's happy. Once it regains her strength, it flies off to serve again, to the hive. That is bee life. It is so immersed in this activity. The Vedas say when a lotus flower closes for the night, a bee is trapped inside. But it does not even notice that because it collects pollen, nectar all night. And once the flower opens, it flies to the hive, like nothing happened. The beekeepers say that if the hive is too far from the flowers, the bees die in the way. They do not make it. They cannot stop. They cannot leave nectar. That is the only thing they think about. The Vedas compare nectar to love, to desire to serve others. That means giving nectar. You bring the nectar to the hive. And now, how does the fly live? It also flies to sweetness, but on the way, it sees something strong. It sees poo. And it decides to sort things out, to dot all the I's. Then it gets a family there. It criticizes. It says our country is so bad, and that is all it does. It does not think about holiness and pray. It is just constantly disappointed. And when there is a killer bee in the hive, a fly that looks like a bee, then it is thrown away from the hive. It is pushed away, because no one needs bees like that. The ones that criticize everyone and says, it is all wrong, let's do right. Temples and holy places are only meant for one purpose, to think about holiness and to serve it, and not to discuss and to look for flaws. I told you in short the path that brings you to victory. The Vedas say that the one who follows this path has no losses in his life. And the path leads you to your faith. Each person is inclined for some path, or he knows his faith. You do not need to change anything. You go to your faith, not someone else's faith. But the path does not mean that you think you are a believer. It is inner life. If you have no faith, search for it. Read different scriptures, try to understand how to purify your perception of the world, how to have inner life, how to find your mentor, how to make your life strong and bright and elevated. I'm going to tell you the changes in your fate if you follow this path. Firstly, you will experience joy of life. I'm telling you what happened to me. When I listened to the lectures of seniors, first I felt relief. Gradually, life started to make sense to me. I knew what was what. My eyes were opened to this world and people. I saw everything differently. It all became different. The second thing that happened to me, I got different friends. I associated with great people who inspired me much. The third thing that happened to me, I started to change my daily routine and eating habits. Bad habits just vanished from my life. I did not have to quit anything. Bad habits are wrong taste for life. If your taste is right, everything is okay, because bad habit only restores your happiness in life. But if you get higher happiness, then these lower habits fall off naturally. And my research showed that most people who listen to the lectures quit drinking and smoking naturally. Raise your hands who did it naturally. And raise your hands who made effort, who really quitted. You see, there are also people like that, but there are less. Only strong people can do it, but most people can do it with no effort, just by listening to the lectures. The next stage, the person starts to follow daily routine. It is an amazing thing. In this world, there are forces that harmonize us with the whole universe. There is Rita, a Sanskrit word. This word means universal rhythm. And this rhythm, when a person follows it, he is harmonized. And when you follow it, it is called ritual. When the person knows why it is necessary, he makes a great revelation in his life. Look, when the sun rises above the horizon, all the birds are awakened. The nightingale sings so sweetly. Wake up earlier, earlier. As soon as there is light, don't sleep, wake up. You see, these songs are very optimistic. These are morning melodies, and it means that morning is the time of happiness. When the person gets up early, he receives the purest energy of the sun. The sun is condescended love. Thanks to the sun, all the plants grow, the earth receives warmth. People in summer are kinder, they wait for the sun. It is the energy of love. The word joy in Russian is connected to the sun. Ra, it means the sun in many languages. Radost, it is the energy of sun, love. And in order to harmonize with this energy, you must get up before the sunlight. And it is better to always get up before 6 a.m., no matter if there is light or not, because at this moment the sun crosses a certain line, horizon, and there are changes in the nature. There is wind and everything is awakened. In the north, the sun rises later, and we see the light later. In the sun, the trajectory of the sun is more steep. But in general, if the person gets up before 6 a.m., then he has joy, optimism, ability to self-improve, willpower, health, happiness, fortune, good fortune. And the person who gets up after 6 a.m. gets lazy, depressed, resentful, he has inflammations, he is slow, his memory is worse, he cannot self-improve and control himself, he is depressed and has no willpower, chronic diseases. Similarly, when the person goes to bed early, he has relationships with the moon. Lunar energy gives relaxation and peace. It also gives love energy, and evening time is meant for family. Morning time is prayer, daytime work, and evening family. This is how this world works. You must have the biggest meal of your day at noon, because the sun digests your food. You must eat most at noon. In the morning, you must eat fruits, berries, honey, dried fruits, nuts. In the evening, you should eat food products affected by the moon and descending sun. These are vegetables that get ripe under the moon. Vegetables grow at night, and they are picked in the morning. And vegetables are well digested in the evening. If you are hungry, have vegetables in the evening, but not grains, because they grow under strong sun. When the person adheres to good daily routine, he is in harmony with this world, and he does not have to make extra effort to live. The sun gives him strength in the morning, digests his food, and the moon gives him rest. Those out of sync with the world need to spend their strength to digest. They spend their energy to go to sleep and to wake up. They get up late in the morning, and there are destructive processes in the body. When they go to sleep, the moon is up. They get very tense, and after some time they live as if in the fog. I have lectures on this topic. You can study them. I'm going to tell you about owls. In fact, we are all hummingbirds, not larks or owls. You must become a lark in the end. Listen to me. There are people who did not adhere to the daily routine, and they are punished by time. They were born 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. There are people who are awarded with time, and they were born 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. It is easier to get up early for those who were born from midnight till noon, and those who were born from noon to midnight find it hard. But even if it is hard to get up early and to go to bed early, they still should do it, otherwise they will suffer and get diseases, because the sun does not follow anyone. It lives its life, and we should follow it. And if we try to live according to our rhythm, we destroy our health and our strength. But this knowledge comes later. Harmony with this world is understood later. First, you must understand there is holiness, and personal development depends on relationships with holiness. When the person is harmonized with this world, he has daily routine. The next thing that happens to him, he gets a higher position in the world. Many people do not know how to find a better job. They do not know how to increase wealth and how to live well without working too hard. Or it's better to say how to live by having a favorite job, because still you have to work. You should know that it depends on how much piety you have in your life. Piety is the amount of good deeds in your heart. The best thing you can do is worship a saint. When a person does it, his character changes gradually, and at first it leads to understanding where he should live and work. Each person has his field of work, and it is determined at work. I have lectures on this topic. So, firstly, the person receives knowledge of his nature in his heart. Then, gradually, his character is changed. You should not try to change your character, it's nonsense. You serve a saint person and do your duties, then character is naturally changed. Character is your punishment. Can we put an end to our punishment? No, only when time comes you are forgiven. And that, for example, means that you are resentful no longer. You are not idle. You do not eat at bedtime. It is all a reward. The punishment is lifted as a result of good deeds. If a character wants to make his character better, it is wrong. You should strive for service to holiness. You should not think too much about yourself. It's wrong. The victory is forgetting about yourself and serving holiness, serving other people. Not yourself, but others. You should not be concerned with your life and health. You should think of others, and you should obey your health to this thought. A mother gets better if she serves her children. If the person thinks about himself, it only gets worse. When there is more piety, surrounding changes. The only intelligent way to change your life is to make it with the help of people who care about you. When surrounding changes, there are more noble people around, and their social status is higher. Because the more piety, the higher status, no matter what you think about it. If the person is rich and powerful, he has piety. It's another question how he uses his wealth. He may become a criminal or just an idler with a lot of piety. Piety does not mean nobility. Piety is opportunity in life, and piety is only gained with service to higher things. It may come from your past life. So when there is more piety, the person has more possibilities in life. He gets good acquaintances who promote him. He can have money for life. It all comes gradually with personal development. You should not be too worried about where you work. Some people think, I'm going to work really hard, I will be promoted and have more money. That is wrong. The right way is to work spiritually and to work less at work. You should spend more time for spiritual life, and gradually your position in life will be higher naturally and you will find the work that you like. I am telling you about my life. This is how I have always lived. So all your problems are solved if you put your inner life first. You should not worry about relationships. Oleg Gennadievich, please do something. I cannot talk to my mother. Don't be worried about that. Start worshipping holiness, wish happiness to your mother. Time will come, you will have a warm feeling to your mother, and it will be all great. And you will know whether you can speak closely to your mother. You will know it in your heart. You will know to keep distance, just to agree with her, to give presents, but not to speak closely. You naturally understand it in time, when the pain goes and there is peace and strength in your heart. Most importantly, you must purify relationships. All the best things a person can receive in life comes from relationships with holiness, with seniors. This is the essence of all scriptures. No matter where you go, which scriptures you take, if they elevate the person and make him happy, it is always the same. service to a holy person. I can easily explain how it works. And this example is not about my faith. I am not a Christian, but here is an interesting story. I went to Taliati to my parents, and your parents, people close to you, you have to give a lot of strength to them. I got really tired after associating with my parents, and I did not know how to give a lecture. I had no strength. And then I discussed it with the guys that took care about me there. They took me home to my parents, and on the way back they said, there is one monastery on the way. There is holy water there, and you can bathe there. They took me there, and when I took a dip in the holy water, I saw a picture of Jesus Christ before me with the Holy Mother. I bowed down to them in my thought, and I bathed. I restored myself completely. I felt reborn there. The water was ice cold and very pure. I felt home. I liked it very much. But that is not the point. There was a phenomenon later, and we're going to have it now also. When I told about it in Samara at my lecture, when I remembered this deep, in that moment my head became clear, I felt light, and there was strength coming through my psyche, through my thoughts. And the same thing happens now when I speak. This is the way memory about saint works. When you activate it, do you feel light and fresh? It even affects you. This is what I am talking about this whole lecture. Most people try to defeat their fate with their strength. They try to do something to their spouse, to prove something to him that he is wrong, or they are repentant. I am wrong, please understand this. But understanding is in your heart, not your head. And the way through your head is too long. It may never even reach your heart. You must act heart to heart. You must get down and pray, establish relationships on the inside. Then it will all be easy. Then you just smile, and there are relationships. Always we just lack strength, opportunity to be together, to raise our children, to love each other, to get a job, to get married. We only lack opportunities. We lack blessings from our seniors. We lack service to them and knowledge. The only thing we lack in life is just knowledge. Some young women approach me and ask, will I get married? I look at them, and it's hopeless. It is almost impossible to get married. And I give them this method. Please find a holy person, think about him, and pray. And then she asks again, will I get married? And I find a break of light. And I tell them, you surely will. On the path where there is strength, there is no defeat. Even if there is a tiny chance, it is increased and there is victory, ultimately. But my words is just a blessing. Faith is increased when the senior says it. It does not mean that everyone should come to me for blessings. I bless you all right now to be happy, and we do it at the end of each lecture. And now, your questions, please. My name is Sergey. Are there prayers for certain occasions? Thank you for that. The first thing a person must do is not prayer. It is selecting faith. You have your faith. Now, when you do, the next stage is you study it. You must study the scripture with prayers. There are prayers in each faith for different occasions. Once you found these prayers, go to a temple or a monastery and ask the seniors about using prayers. The experience is of utmost importance. You may know yourself how to use prayers, but if you hear it from the senior, he will tell you about his experience and his results. When you hear it, you will have a realized knowledge in your heart, which is very important for victory. That is a unique strength that does not come from mere theory. You will receive force from the person who is victorious, and then you will be victorious if you remember that person who gave you knowledge. In fact, it is called initiation. When praying experience is shared, you are initiated into that prayer. In fact, it's what it is. If you listen with faith and devotion, this is the condition. You must develop faith and devotion. As for me, I cannot tell you exactly what prayers you have in your spiritual traditions, because I do not have this experience. I have my culture, my faith. My lectures are not aimed at teaching you to do something in your culture, but I can tell you there are 3 levels of knowledge. The first level is the one that gives you material success and that we normally devote our life to. That is studying at school and university, professional skills. We can write and calculate, we know accounting and foreign languages. That is material knowledge. It is mechanical. It gives you material success within its boundaries. But when you study it, your possibilities are not expanded. The lake of happiness is not expanded with this knowledge. You can only improve your life within this lake. The next is lectures on morality that we have now. This is the second level. It is deeper, more subtle perception of the world that expands possibilities of the person. The lake of happiness is filled with good, pure water, but it is not expanded. There are just more possibilities within certain limits. You purify your lake, you make it crystal clear, fill it with water, but the banks remain the same. And the third level of knowledge is spiritual knowledge. It is always given within a certain religion that a person must select at a certain point of his life. It is the most complicated knowledge. You must accept faith, and you do not do it to get fanatic, but with the only purpose to study deeper relationships with holiness, to expand your lake of happiness, to make it endless, to have a halo over your head. That requires spiritual knowledge, studying under supervision of a superior. For example, Christianity, it is very vast, and each person's faith must be within the boundaries of his mentor. You can listen to a lot of opinions and you can do philosophy till the end of your life, but Faith is required to know your path. There are many paths to God. They are all right. You must listen to your mentor and follow him. This is the point of faith. Find the mentor in your tradition. Listen to him, follow him, and he will reveal to you everything for your life to be victorious. Please pass the microphone. Hello, I have a mundane question about relationships. I am not expecting divine questions. I study them elsewhere. Traditionally, in-laws on the wife's side in Russian culture are considered prone to conflicts. That is easily explained. It is easy. Look, when a mother loves her child, is it selfless or egoistic? It's egoistic. It's completely egoistic. In order for it to become selfless, the mother must be a saint. Now, your daughter usually tell everything to their mothers. She dates some guy. Mother, I have a boyfriend. She tells you everything. Are you worried? Normally, no. Now, your daughter is silent. What does it mean? Loss of control. It means that she fell in love for real. And in that moment, the mother becomes a mother-in-law. And she says, loss of control, because her love is stolen. When the daughter dates someone and tells everything, there was no love. She just had fun, as girls like it. She flirts, she talks to everyone, she demonstrates her power, she checks it. But when she is in love, she tells nothing to her mother, because her love was redirected from her mother to her boyfriend, and it will stay there forever. What does the mother have in her heart? Jealousy, pain. She thinks, why did you fall in love with that fool? Come back to that nice boy. Listen, my dear mother-in-law. By law, we are not enemies. And it's true, we are relatives. You are like a second mother to me. My dear mother-in-law, I love your pancakes. They are so tasty, and I can eat many, many of your pancakes. Do you feel better? When there is an egoistic feeling, service is required. The Vedas say that a girl must give more love to the parents of her husband, and a young man must love more parents of his wife. They must serve them more. You naturally give love to your parents, but to do it for the in-laws it requires endeavor. And you must accept humiliation. They will torment you, and you must accept everything from them. They will teach you, they will say, do you have any idea who you married? Yes, I know, I understand. And ultimately they will give up, and they will consider you a good person. And this is why you should do it. When fate breaks people apart, and it always does at some point, in that moment, normally, old relationships are restored. The wife loved her mother, And as the mother has always felt competition, she pulls the daughter back to her, although she cannot give her life anymore. Still, she has to marry her daughter, but she pulls her back because she cannot help it. And she blames the husband and destroys the life of her daughter. But if the husband establishes relationships with his mother-in-law, that does not happen. She will say, "My dear daughter, stay with him. He's a very nice person." Do you understand it? You should give your strength to your in-laws. You must build a fortress of your family and fill it with water so that no one could approach. Please, your question. Please ask questions about self-improvement and inner life. We can get immersed in relationships of relatives, and it's endless. But our goal is relationships in general. We must study rules deeper to use them in life later. I would like to come back to the faith. I am interested in your experience. My name is Vladimir. I would like to know, you also had to choose at some point when choosing your faith. Did you inherit it from your mentor or first you found faith? I searched for faith. Very seriously I did. I was sincere. I studied one tradition and then another. The best thing that I can give you on this account, one amazing book of a person I know. He's one of my mentors. His name is Radhanatha Swami, and the book, The Journey Home. If you read it, he does not impose his faith, but he gives the faith. Going home means finding your faith. He searched since childhood. His life is extremely amazing. He knew Mother Teresa and Dalai Lama and many exalted people we do not even know. He experienced it all. He searched very sincerely and he found his faith and mentor. And why this? You said not imposed. What touched you? A kindred feeling. I felt that it was mine. I belonged there. Do you have a wife? Yes, of course. What touched you? Nothing. I did it myself. You conquered her. Well, I had my reasons. Then you will have to conquer your faith also. My faith. And that's done. No, I did not mean I conquered my wife. What happens then? I had a feeling. It's the same with the faith, but the feeling is very elevated, it is very light. When I saw my spiritual master, time stopped for me. It stopped still. I felt eternity in relationships with him. Similarly, there was a big hall and a lecture. He talked about spiritual matters. By that time I had my spiritual tradition, and when I saw him, the way he prayed, he is a very exalted person, renounced. Time stopped. I felt it was so amazing. And then God gave me presents. My mentor received flowers, and it is a blessing to receive a flower from the hands of an exalted person. And one man got that flower. It is rare to have it. And he took the flower to the audience. I sat just like you in the back. He came up to me, gave me the flower and said, "I congratulate you with selecting your mentor." That was the first present I received. Miracles started to happen. True miracles. I felt connection to my mentor. And while searching, did you study other traditions? Yes, I did. I went to Sergiev Posad. I tried to become an Orthodox Christian. I stood night vigils, but I liked the feeling. But I chose different faith, not because I do not like Christianity, but my feelings are stronger there. It is this feeling of kindred. So the search is fine. It is really great. Some people think that stay in this faith and go nowhere. That is violence. If a person has already selected faith, there is no need for him to move somewhere. But if the person has doubts, then his decision is not made. If he is told to stay, that is nonsense. There was one case. I had an acquaintance in Dnipropetrovsk. She was in the Vedic culture, like me, and for a long time she was sad. I did not understand the reason for that, and I told her, maybe you should consider your faith. She did, and then I saw a movie against abortions. It was Christian, and she was the host in that movie. She spoke to her mentor. She was shining. At some point, I lost contact with her, and when I saw her in that movie, she selected different faith and she was happy. She searched, and she found her faith. Read this book, The Journey Home. Everything is described there, the search. You will see it clearly. It will be crystal clear for you how to search. The author describes very democratically and unobtrusively the state of his mind. Thank you.
Вот не дошло. Вон мужчина в ту сторону микрофон туда. Не дошло. Преимущество близости микрофона работает в нашем зале.
Oleg Gennadievich, a small preamble to the question. I read a lot of bad things about you on the internet, but still I listen to your lectures. Maybe I'm not usual. It is interesting that many things written there have some truth in them, but they are exaggerated. For example, there are people whom I cannot help in terms of treatment. But I help some people, but what is written there is all exaggerated. And these people who write this are very valuable to me. I spoke to my mentor when the critics were at the highest, and he said things that made me sweat. He took me by the hand and said, "While you are criticized, you are saved. So please accept it." I prayed very much, and now I accepted these people. I thank my fate for people who give me opportunity to see my mistakes. One person in my health center studies all these critics to correct mistakes. There are some problems in our work, and they are corrected. We work in that direction. Now we have better contact with our patients. There is a whole department on it. Here is the question. It has been known for a long time that the mother of all vices is pride. But we live in atmosphere when we are called to be proud with our mother country, history and everything. But I often notice that even women I was close to feel like being proud with their men. And I would like to know, Love and pride, do they destroy each other or they are connected? Thank you very much. To be proud with your country is great. It is better than to be proud with yourself. Pride is always lack of knowledge. But to be proud with your husband means stability in life. It is important to be proud with your husband and not with yourself. There are two types of women. One are proud with themselves and the second with their husbands. Some people are proud of their motherland and others criticize it. It is better to be proud with your motherland and with your husband. And if you want to be even better, be proud that there is God, that you are a soul, that you know and love people of different cultures and traditions. In order to understand better people who were born in America, I started to associate with the listeners in America and Canada. I started association via the internet, and I understood that culture, that country, and I respect it. In order to understand Europe better, I went to give lectures in Europe. I could feel their culture, their purity, their traditions. Gradually I felt like the citizen of the world. But at the same time, love for Russia is still here. You did very right. You replaced proud with love. That is right. I agree with you. Pride is underdeveloped love. There is a comparison. There is spiritual world and spiritual planets where people also love their motherland, but they do not have any alien land. If the person is underdeveloped, his love is not divine but egoistic, and it makes him hate other lands. He loves his faith and it makes him hate other faiths. There is comparison. But when a person has pure love for his motherland and culture, faith, then this love does not destroy respect for other cultures and faith. There is no envy in these relationships. Pride leads to envy. Love is higher. Even people of faith who dislike other faiths are underdeveloped, but that is much better than criticizing your faith. That is just a certain level. You must feel calmly about these people. It is better to be a patriot than to criticize. Thank you for another amazing question. Hello, Oleg Gennadievich. I like this lecture today. It is so great. Nice association. God blessed us. My husband is a Christian, but I cannot accept it completely. I had this bright feeling when I read Cowboy from Gokula to my child. You are not Christian. Here is an advice. Go to the services with your husband. I do it weekly. Go there, bow down to Christian saints, and if I cannot switch, that means you are underdeveloped. Begin relationships in your heart, and when you feel purity from Christian people, you will feel relieved, and you will be able to go with your husband to his priest and to pray in Christianity, and you will still be in your faith. And for you to understand what I'm speaking about, watch Jaha and Akbar movie. This movie is about an amazing personality. There was a great ruler. He was called Akbar. And he conquered all India because he had such a deep understanding of different culture that he permitted his new subjects to have their culture. He allowed people to worship God as they wanted, but he remained his right to rule over the whole area. He felt like he was authorized to bring India to order. He made it strong and united it. He had a wife, Jadha. She was not Muslim. She was a Hindu, and for her he made special chambers. There was a Hindu temple right inside his palace. Although all his ministers were against it, he gave his wife all possibilities to worship God the way she wanted. He loved her most of all wives and thought she was special. He had a very strong feeling to all spiritual cultures. He was a very advanced personality. Watch this movie and you will see his feeling, his tact and respect to another culture. All religious wars come because of what you have in your heart. It is scary. It destroys the world. In fact, it is demonic, not divine. Learn to love the faith of your spouse. Accept it and love, bless, and do not prohibit your child to move on in this faith if his heart is drawn there. My name is Artyom, and my question is, you spoke about the mentor. I am a Christian. Is my mentor supposed to be the man of the cloth? He should have some rank? Yes, that must be a spiritually developed person, better a monk. In Christianity, the strongest are monks, usually. I have not finished my question. My father has been in service for over 10 years. He did it late, but now he is in a temple, a monastery in Kamchatka, and he is going to become a monk. When I followed his recommendations, to have your father as your mentor is the highest blessing. It is the best thing you can do. There is naturally a relative feeling, and you are already blessed to have a father like that. That is rare. Thank you. Thank you for coming here. I am honored. Good evening, everyone. My name is Polina. Speak up, please. My question is, how can I learn not to expect presents from God, but to accept everything as presents? How to serve selflessly? You want another present? Well, you have some tests, you pass them. You do not need to learn that. That is another present. Time comes and you will be able to accept everything as a gift of God. That is a very high spiritual level. What should I do now? Tests come one after another. First I pass them and I know that I received help, but these tests now, I do not feel help. I feel left alone, and I had this mistrust. This feeling of estranged means atheism. You are left alone. Am I with you? You are
или нет?
or not? You
Чего
are.
одна тогда?
Why are you alone then?
Нет, не одна, я неправильно выразилась.
I said
Правильно
wrong,
выразилась.
I'm not alone.
Называется отчужденность.
No, you said it right.
Отчужденность
That means
означает,
estranged.
что, ну,
It is
невежество победило
ignorance
в вашем
prevailing
сердце
in your heart
чистоту.
over
Но надо не
purity.
обращать на это опять
You
внимания,
should
что
ignore it.
чувство одиночества тоже
If
не
you
надо
feel
трогать.
lonely,
Надо просто слушать
you must
сердце.
just serve to the holiness. You must serve on, listen to the lectures, prayers, spiritual music.
Не обращать внимания на
Go
чувство,
on
что я
despite
одна.
this
Это
feeling
чувство
of
проходит
estranged.
сразу же после
This feeling will
усилия
go
полутора.
when you
Сразу же.
do spiritual
Это
practice
опять же желание
intensively.
подарков.
That is
Есть
desire
три
for
категории.
presence. There are
Первый
three
тип людей,
types of
это
people.
хорошо.
The first type is
Первая
you. That is
категория
good.
людей. Люди хотят
The first
счастья.
type is
Даже
people
занимаясь
want
духовной
happiness,
практикой.
even when they do
Поэтому они
spiritual
всегда ждут
practice.
подарков повсюду.
And they
Они сами
always
этого не
expect
понимают. Вы сейчас
presents in
опять
everything,
спросили о подарке,
without
а не о
realizing
жизни.
it.
Те, кто
You
хотят
ask me
подарков,
about
они не
presents
живут,
and
они
not
живут.
life. Those who want
Надо
presents,
заставить
they
себя
do not
жить,
leave, they
жить,
expect.
работать над собой,
But you must leave, you
а не
must
ждать.
improve
Жить, а
yourself.
не ждать. Это первая категория людей,
That is the
которые
first type of
стали на
people
путь.
who are
Вторая
the
категория
beginners.
людей — это те,
The
которые
second
научились
category are
жить,
people
а не ждать.
who
Они не ждут
learned how
подарков,
to
уже
live.
они удовлетворены
They do
собой,
not
просто служат.
expect, they just serve, they are satisfied with their life.
Но у них есть трудности, испытания.
But they
и у
have
них есть
challenges
также
and
печали,
tests,
страдания, но
they
они
also
знают
have
рецепт,
miseries,
что не нужно
but they
думать
know
о подарках,
the right
чтобы
way.
было счастье, нужно
To have
продолжать свой
happiness,
путь,
you
а не
must
просто служить
move
дальше
along your
служению.
path and not
Они
expect
не
everything.
привлекаются, когда
They
я
are
мысли,
not
когда я выйду замуж,
attracted
когда
by
меня
thoughts
пройдет
like,
отчужденность,
when am I
когда я
going to
вылечусь,
get
когда
married,
то,
when
когда
am
сё.
I
Они
not
об этом
lonely
думают,
anymore,
просто дальше
when
живут,
am I
всё.
healthy. They just
Эти люди
serve
счастливы.
on. And these
Уже
people are
счастливы,
happy
прямо
already,
сейчас они счастливы.
in the
Эти люди
moment.
находятся в благости.
They are in the
Все
mode of
остальные еще не
goodness,
находятся в благости полностью.
unlike the
Есть
rest.
третья категория людей,
And there is the third category
которые
of people who
испытывают глубочайшее
experience
счастье,
the
думая о
deepest
святости.
joy when thinking about holiness. They are constantly happy and enthusiastic. They have no sins. They are saints.
У них тоже могут испытания, но они
They
не
also
хотят
have challenges, but they do not pay any attention to
думать об
them.
этом вообще. Если они видят
If
испытания, они
they
радуются,
see
думают, Бог
challenges,
послал
they
им
are
испытания,
happy
это правда.
because they know God sent them,
Бог лично
and
это
that's true.
не судьба у
God
нас, не
contacts
общается
that people
Бог.
personally,
Стать таким
not
человеком.
fate. Do you want to be a person like that?
Ну, вы обязательно таким станете.
You
со временем.
surely will in
Но сейчас об
time,
этом не надо думать.
but you should not think of it right now.
Надо трудиться.
You must
Думать о том,
work.
как завтра поклоняться
You must think
святости. У вас
about
есть какая-то
worshipping
святость?
tomorrow.
Что это
Do you
такое?
have some holy object? What is that?
Это что, икона?
An
Икона
icon,
какая-то, да?
some icon.
Супер, супер.
That's great.
Просто классно. Где она стоит?
Where is it?
В комнате.
In my room.
Там алтарь. Очень
You have an
хорошо.
altar.
Вы
That is great.
садитесь перед этим, то завтра сядете
Do
и
you
вас
sit in
кормят.
front it? When will you do it tomorrow? You do not live here, you just came for the
Не в
lecture.
родном городе. Можно
So
сесть
you
перед
can
иконой
sit in
мысли.
front of the icon in your thoughts.
А вы можете
And can
вспомнить
you
свой
remember
алтарь
your
здесь?
altar now? Yes,
Да,
I
вот завтра
can.
сядете, вспомните алтарь,
Tomorrow
я здесь
do
точно так
it.
сделаю.
I
Тоже
also
в
do it
родном
here.
городе
I just came here.
Вспомните алтарь,
Visualize your
начните
altar
молитву.
and
Да.
start to pray tomorrow.
Хорошо?
Okay?
Ну все, видите, все просто уже.
You see, it is easy.
Но когда у нас есть сомнения, то
But
всё
when we
непросто. У нас
have
мысли
doubts, it
какие-то
becomes
возникают,
difficult.
и
We have
иногда
some
даже
thoughts,
забываем
some
делать
weird
важное,
ideas,
когда идеи
and these
возникают
ideas
в голове.
carry us away and we
И
forget to
нас
do
засасывают,
some
мы начинаем
important
всё
things.
сомневаться, потом
We
надо
have
просто
doubts
делать,
then,
и всё.
but you should just do.
Я сажусь молиться.
I sit down to pray, and I know I'm attached to the contact that was there, these relationships. I'm also attached, but now
Нет, супер.
I have
А вы
nothing.
помните, что был,
That
да?
is great, but you remember what you had.
Я сажусь,
It happens
был
to me
контакт,
every
не
day.
идет.
I had a contact and it's not there. I start to pray, I think about it, I worship, I serve. Then it becomes purer and purer, and at some point the contact is restored. Sometimes it's like that, but sometimes I feel that I try and try, but I'm fake, I'm not sincere. That's great, that means you are.
Как это видеть? И мне кажется,
You want result again. In that time, you must remember holiness and serve it, but you want result. Listen to me, everyone. We are going to wish everyone happiness now. Think about holiness, and many of you will experience happiness in that moment. If you forget about holiness, you will just think, oh, I am so great. And that is the end of your wishing happiness. You started to feel well and you want no longer to serve holiness. Is it true? Is your goal to serve holiness or to feel well?
как бы я поклонялась,
I served, but I, of course, also want to feel well. But that's okay, that is your level. But the method is, once you forget about feeling well and you deserve, you will again feel well. The more you think about feeling well, the worse it is. Does it sound familiar? It does. But you did not like my answer.
нет, мне надо просто
I just need to think it over. Will do.
ну как бы получается, когда
So,
устанавливаешь контакт, всё
when I restore contact, it all flows,
а потом
and you wish happiness to someone else.
и отдать ничего не
But now I have nothing to give.
Of
course you can't. In that moment, you know that you are the soul. You can give nothing because you have nothing. That is a great feeling. You must think about a saint. You must get distracted from yourself and think about a saint. And when you do, automatically you give to others. You may not know it, but it happens. But when you want to give yourself, it does not work. This is a very deep question. Please listen attentively, all. This topic, meditation on holiness, how it works, how you should behave, what mistakes and troubles there are, what traps. Do you see your trap?
Да, наверное, не знаю, не могу сказать.
I do not know. I guess so.
Сказано, что я осознала.
I have not realized it yet. But that's great. You are very intelligent. You just need to work to realize it. But tomorrow we will work together, me on the plane and you at home. Or are you going to be on the train? That's great. I'm on the plane, you on the train. Once I was on a train. I started my spiritual practice, and in my compartment walked in a girl, just like you, very modest. She sat down. And we recognized each other. I said, you must be a Christian nun. She said, and you must be in this tradition. So we immediately blew each other's covers very quickly. I had another case like this on the train. I was on my trip, I looked at no one, and one person walked by. He looked at me and said, "You belong to the spiritual tradition?" He looked at me closely. I looked back at him. FSB? And with that girl, we started to talk on spiritual topics. It appeared that she was an artist. She drew saints. icons.
рассказывать про свою духовную
She
жизнь, про вот эти,
told me about her spiritual life, about
вот,
her
спрашивать
work,
меня о моих
and
духовных.
she
Я
asked me
отвечал,
about my
просто,
spiritual tradition.
просто супер.
It
Потом
was
мы выложили
great.
все, что у нас есть покушать.
Then
Она
we
по-своему
put
помолилась,
our food
по-своему,
out,
что
we
можно было,
both
мы
prayed,
покушали друг у друга.
we
Так мы
ate
с ней
what we
ехали в
could
поезде
from
вместе,
each other's lunch,
общаясь на
and that
духовную
was
тему.
our ride on the
Между
train.
людьми нет различий.
There are no
Есть
differences
только
between people.
зависть,
There is
глупость,
just envy,
и
stupidity,
холод сердца, каменное
and a
сердце.
cold
Оно
heart,
разделяет
stone heart.
людей в их верах
It breaks people
и
apart.
так далее. Дальше вопросы?
More questions?
Ваш вопрос?
Олег Геннадьевич, добрый вечер. Вот сейчас
Good
будем
night.
желать счастья. Можно
We are
пожелать
going to wish
счастья?
happiness.
Ну, я от себя говорю, Украине,
And
чтобы там эта война
I'm speaking
закончилась.
from me. Can we wish happiness to Ukraine for
Какой
the
хороший
war to be
вопрос.
over? This
Думаю,
is such a
что
great
каждый
question.
ответ. Знаете, в этом
I
мире
think
не
I
хватает
do not
только
need to
мира.
answer it.
Всё.
The only thing
В этом
that
мире не
lacks in
хватает
this
только
world
мира.
is
Потому
peace.
что если бы
Because
мы все
if we all
желали
wish
счастья
happiness
сейчас
right now
Украине,
to
всей
Ukraine,
Украине,
the
не
whole
нашей, не
Ukraine,
вашим,
not
а
to
всей
our
Украине
side
желали
or
счастья,
their
там
side,
не гибли люди,
but if we
то с
wished
обоих
people did
сторон
not die there,
лидеры
then
бы
on
успокоились,
both sides
и
the leaders
мозг
would have
бы
pacified,
успокоился,
and they would
и они
have
нашли бы
found the
истинно
only
правильное
right
решение
solution
для того, чтобы все
to
проблемы
all
разрешить.
problems.
Но так как в
But
мире не
as
хватает мира,
there is lack
а
of
очень много
peace in this
ненависти и
world,
злобы,
and
и
very much
национальной
hatred
вражды,
and
из-за
anger
этого
and
гибнут
national
люди,
animosity,
которые ничего
people
общего с этим
die.
не имеют.
People
Просто
who have
попали в
nothing to
это
do
время
about it.
какой-то
Their
судьбой.
fate just brought them in the crossfire.
Ваше понимание правильно,
Your
такое
understanding
же,
is
как у меня.
correct,
Я тоже
the
этим
same
участвую.
as
Я
mine.
хочу мира,
I do it also
Украине,
now.
мира,
I
чтобы
wish
не было
peace to
войны.
Ukraine,
Хочу
no
мира.
war.
Мне всё равно, какие
I do not
взгляды
care
людей.
what
Это
views
их
people
личное
have. That
решение.
is their personal
Быть
decision
с Россией или
to
быть
be
с Западом.
with
Это их
Russia or
личное
to be
решение.
with the West,
Но мир
but
— это то, что нужно
peace
сейчас всем.
is what
И если там не
is
будет
needed
мира,
for everyone.
знайте,
And unless there is
что
peace,
эти
know
страдания
that
перекинутся также и на нас со временем.
these sufferings will cross over to us in
Но это
time.
точно разрушает,
I do not know
развивается,
how,
как пожар.
but it spreads like a wildfire. The Vedas
Горит и уничтожает весь лес со временем.
compare it to the
Точно так же
wildfire
злоба
that
между людьми расширяется
burns down the
всю
whole wood.
и разрушает
Similarly,
жизнь
anger
всех.
spreads and
Поэтому
destroys
все разумные
everyone's
люди на
lives.
земле сейчас не
All
должны
intelligent,
молиться за
sensible
нас и за
people
ваших, а должны
in the
просто
world
помолиться,
should
чтобы
not
там все
wish for
спокойно, все
victory
наступил
for
мир,
one of
и
the
чтобы они
sides,
мирным
but they
путем
must
решали все свои
wish
противоречия,
peace
которые неизбежно
to
бывают
resolve the
всегда в мире.
situation
Поэтому
peacefully.
в этом мире не хватает
There is
только
only a
Бога.
lack of
Бог
God in
означает
this
любви,
world.
означает
God
любовь,
means
которая
love.
дает мир в сердцах
Love
людей,
that gives
здравый
peace to
смысл,
people's hearts
которого не
and
хватает там, где идет
intelligence,
война.
common sense, which is absent
Спасибо за
where
этот вопрос.
there is war.
Ваше
Thank you for
правильное
this
понимание.
question, for your correct understanding.
Олег Геннадьевич, меня зовут Вячеслав.
My name is
У меня
Vyacheslav.
такой вопрос.
My question is, there are arrogance and there are
Да,
feeling
я-
proud.
Вячеслав.
Look here, Vyacheslav.
Гордыня —
Arrogance
это,
or pride
действие ложного эго в разуме.
is a false
Когда разум
ego
заходит
acting
в
in your
эгоизм,
intelligence.
человек теряет
When it
здравый
happens, you lose common
смысл. Он
sense.
перестает понимать грани
You
истины всей.
no longer
Он
see
понимает только
facets
одну
of
грань,
the
и в
truth.
результате
You
это
only
становится
see one
ложью.
facet and
Так
it is
действует
false.
гордыня.
That is the way
Но
arrogance
гордость
does.
сама по
But
себе
pride
это
on its own, when you are
может быть
proud for
духовным
something, it can be
Она
spiritual.
не обязательно приводит
It
человека
does
к
not
заблуждению.
necessarily
Например, человек
lead
может иметь
to
истинное
misunderstanding.
чувство собственного
A
достоинства.
person can have
Например,
a
духовный
true
учитель
self-respect,
может вести
proper
с
pride.
высоко поднятой
For
головой.
example, a
Это не
spiritual master
означает,
can
что
hold his
он
head
гордый
high,
человек.
but
Это
that doesn't
означает,
mean
что
he is
он
proud.
очень сильно
That
свою
means
веру и
that he
чувствует,
knows
что он
his faith
отвечает
and he
за учеников,
is
чувствует
responsible for his
достоинство
disciples.
своего положения.
He has
Это гордость.
decency. That is not
Точно
pride.
так же человек может гордиться
Similarly,
своей
a person
родиной,
can
при
be
этом не
proud of
завидовать
his
другие страны.
motherland and not hate other countries.
Чувство
Pride
Так, например,
is a strong
защищая свою
feeling.
родину, человек может быть
For
очень
example, when a
храбрым,
person protects his
сильным,
motherland,
выносливым.
he can be
При
very
этом ненавидеть
brave and
противника,
strong,
не
and
ненавидеть противника. Не
he
обязательно его
does not
ненавидеть.
necessarily hate
Это
his
сражаешься
enemy.
за свою родину.
When you fight,
Но если у тебя
you do
нет
not have to do
собственного
it.
достоинства,
But
ты не
if you
сможешь
have no
сражаться за родину.
self-respect,
Поэтому
you cannot
гордость
fight
нужна,
properly.
она дает доблесть и
So
силу
pride
внутреннюю.
is
Но
necessary,
она
it
должна
gives
быть
you
правильно
bravery,
поставлена. А для
but
того,
it
чтобы
must be
гордость была
right.
правильной, особенно в сражении,
And
человек должен
especially when you
постоянно
fight
находиться в молитве,
for the
потому что
pride
если
to
он
be
не будет
right, you
молитве,
must
боль
constantly
и
pray.
обида, которая возникает
Otherwise,
во время
pain
сражения,
and
срывает
resentful
крышу и
will
делает человека уже
blow your
не
mind,
защитником, а
and
агрессором.
you won't be a protector but an aggressor. You see that?
Поэтому гордость — это
So,
хорошее чувство,
pride is a good feeling.
духовное чувство.
It is spiritual,
Оно
but
должно
it
быть
must
очень
be
сильно подкреплено
supported
Богом.
by God
Если
very
Бога
strongly.
забывает человек,
If a
то
person
тогда
forgets
эта
God,
гордость
then this
превращается в
pride
гордыню,
turns
разрушает
into
его жизнь.
arrogance
Это
and
тонкости
it destroys.
таких аналогий. Иногда
But
гордостью
these
называют
things
гордыней.
are subtle.
Но в целом, как бы я вот эту разницу вам попытался
But I explained to you the difference.
Спасибо.
Thank you.
Олег Геннадьевич,
It's clear to
вопрос
me.
Понимание смирения.
And
Смирение,
humbleness.
вот смотрите, я сейчас вам объясню. Это самое
Humbleness
высшее
is
качество
the
личности
highest
любой.
quality of any person.
Душа по своей природе
By
имеет
nature,
маленькую
the soul
аномалию,
is
которая
small.
находится вот здесь, в области
It is
сердца.
right
Прямо
here
в этом
where
месте.
our heart
У меня
is.
такая.
At least I have it there in my body.
Она очень маленькая.
It is very
размером
small.
с искру. Очень
The soul
маленькая
is
душа.
very tiny, like a sparkle.
И она обладает
And
огромным
the
могуществом,
sparkle
если
is
она
very powerful
связана
if it is
с
connected
Солнцем.
to the sun.
Веды объясняют,
The
что
Vedas say
в этом
that
мире все души
in this
летят от
world,
Солнца к
all the
собственному
souls
счастью,
go
желая
away
своего
from
счастья отдельного от
the
святости
happiness
и от
to
Бога.
individual
Они
happiness.
пасут,
They wish
низко
be
летят
away
от
from
Когда
holiness.
человек поворачивается к Богу,
But
к
when
общему
a
свету,
person
к общему
turns to
знанию,
God or to the sun, to
тогда
the
он
common
разгорается,
knowledge,
и искорка
then
может
he
разгореться очень
becomes
сильно,
brighter,
она сияет, как
and the
солнце
spark
может
can
быть.
become
Но она
extremely
всё равно
bright,
солнцем не
just like the
становится
sun.
в мире.
But
Она всё
it is
равно
never the
является
sun.
зависимой.
It is
от
always
Бога.
dependent on
Душа
God.
всегда зависима
The
от
soul
Бога.
is
Она
always
просто
dependent
обладает
on
огромным
God,
могуществом. Она может
though
как
it
солнце
has great
подключиться.
power.
Поэтому святой
So
человек,
a
он
saint
сравнивается,
is
он фактически
almost
такой же
as powerful
могущественный, как
as
Бог, но
God,
Богом никогда
but
не
he
станет.
never is God and never will be, because
Такие вещи не меняются.
these things do
Маленькая
not
душа
change.
остается маленькой душой, она вечно
The small
маленькая.
soul
Так вот,
stays
знаете, что когда
the
человек
small
начинает
soul.
поклоняться святости,
When
то
the person
постепенно
worships
он начинает
holiness,
чувствовать свою
gradually
зависимость от
he
этого
feels
мира.
his
И
dependency
это
on this
чувство
world,
постепенно приходит
and
в область сердца,
it
и
gradually
он тогда
goes into his
абсолютная
heart.
зависимость от этого
And
мира
when he is
возникает в его
absolutely
сердце.
dependent
И
on this
ощущает
world,
абсолютное
this
чувство
feeling
веры,
in his heart and
могущества
his
Бога.
faith
В
is
этот момент он
limitless.
чувствует
He
себя
knows the
очень
power of God.
смиренным, очень
He feels
скромным и очень
extremely
маленьким.
humble,
В этот
modest,
момент он
and
видит себя
small.
как душу.
In that moment, he
Это
knows he is the
ощущение
soul.
скромности
This
или ощущение,
feeling
что я
of
маленький,
humbleness, this
это
feeling of
означает
being small,
приближение к
that
пониманию,
means
что это душа.
approaching to understanding yourself as the soul.
Понимание
And that is
изначального,
your
естественного
original,
своего положения
natural
в этом мире.
position in this world.
Могущественного положения.
Very
Чем
powerful
больше человек
position.
понимает себя
The more
скромным,
the
как
person
душа,
understands
тем больше у него
himself
силы
as the
влияния
soul,
на
the
все,
more
на
power
все,
he
что
has to
происходит вокруг.
affect
Тем больше в
everything
нем святости
around,
и могущества
the more
становится.
holiness and force there is in him.
Скромность или смирение.
Modesty or
Скромность — это
humbleness,
качество смирения. Это самое высшее проявление
these are the
характера человека.
highest manifestations of one's character.
Самое высшее показатель
They are
святости.
the topmost indicators of holiness in any person.
Раз заканчивать?
It's time to finish.
Хорошо. Ну, я надеюсь,
Well,
что мы
I
с
hope
вами
that
сегодня- у меня хоть хорошее
I have
чувство
a
по
very
сегодняшнему
good
вечеру.
feeling
Вчера
about
как-то
today's
скучновато
lecture.
было, мне кажется.
Yesterday it was a bit boring, I think.
А?
No, it was great.
Скучновато было. Сегодня
We did not speak about God yesterday, it was a bit boring, and today is more joyful.
это от меня не зависит.
It does not depend on me,
Я тоже
it
стараюсь, конечно.
is all up to God. I try also, but please, everyone, sit
Даже
straight.
если у вас есть вера, и вы
Even
уже
if you
молитесь
have
во
faith
всем,
and you pray
учитесь
much,
желать всем счастья, никому
it harms no one to learn to wish
То,
happiness.
что мы все должны.
We all must learn to do it.
Надо вспомнить
You must remember
что-то святое.
something holy.
Примеров, вариантов говорили сегодня.
There are many options, we named them today.
Нужно
You must
вспомнить.
remember, you must feel holiness. And in the next moment you say, I wish everyone happiness, thinking about holiness. When you focus really well, at some point you will think of where your force will be directed to. But do the same, you think about holiness and you give it to others. You remember and you give. But at some point, something will change in your heart. You will remember where your force is going to. You will remember a person who offended you or broke up with you. You will remember someone who needs help or your child. And then you will feel where your fate goes to, where the victory is. Do not get distracted with these things, because in this case, again, you rely on yourself. You must get distracted and remember holiness again and wish everyone happiness. In a while, other memories will fade away, and then you will feel joy in that direction. That means you achieved victory. First, there is victory on the subtle level, then on the gross. I wish everyone happiness. I wish everyone happiness. I wish everyone happiness.
Я желаю всем счастья. 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 Я всем счастья. Я желаю 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 всем счастья.
Thank you very much. I wish happiness to all of you, spiritual knowledge, love, all the best things there are. I'm very grateful to you for being with me all this time. Thank you very much.